What's up, everybody? Collin Joseph here. He's a fitness pro, an online entrepreneur, and I had the opportunity to meet him last week at Ryan Stewman's $1 Million Mastermind, which was an amazing event. And I just really enjoyed the time that I did have to get to know you a little bit. And obviously, we're going to have some more time to do that here today. So thanks for being on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I love to start off the show with the name of it is called Championship Leadership, kind of a unique name, right? And so I always like to ask, what do you think of, or what really pops to your mind when you hear Championship Leadership?
Tenacity. Tenacity has always been something that I've related anything like a championship mindset to. And just, I hate to use the word leadership to describe leadership, but yeah. I'd say tenacity.
Tenacity. I love that. That's great. And I haven't, that's kind of the first time I've heard that from one of our guests. So that is it. Yeah. Tenacity. To be a champion, like you got to bring it, and you got to bring it every day, not just on game day, right? In the preparation. And I know you are big into fitness, like we said, in your body, and you got to bring the tenacity every single day, right?
Yeah, and it was like I was like growing up, like I played football, I wrestled, I fought in MMA and stuff like that. Like I was never the biggest guy, so if you're tenacious, you can get away with a lot more. You can go a little bit further. So it was always kind of something that I kept in the back of my mind, playing hockey and stuff like that in Canada.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your story, and let's not gloss over those things. So you very active athlete. You did some MMA as well.
Yeah, so growing up, when I was like 5 years old, I grew up in Ontario, which is close to you guys in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Alberta. But just in the process of moving, I got in, I think I was like 5 or 6 years old. I got a really bad accident. I shot like I was playing road hockey or something like that, and I shot a ball under the moving truck. Then when I went under to get the ball, when I came out, there's two bicyclists that were riding by, and the handlebars clipped my head and like ripped a chunk of my skull out.
Oh.
And I fractured my skull, and they had to rush me to the emergency and stuff like that. And they removed a portion about the size of like a baseball, I guess, out of my skull.
Wow.
And so in that process, they had two options, I guess my parents were told, or I was told by my parents. One was to put a metal plate in, which they said could potentially like alter my personality and like different things of that nature, and there might be some learning disabilities and stuff like that with it, or they could just let it heal and it would calcify and cartilage. I just wouldn't have a part of my skull, which is ultimately what my parents chose to do. So I just have like a huge soft spot here. I just have a chunk it's just cartilage now, there's no skull. So anyways, in that process, I had to wear a bicycle helmet to like protect my head. Like, so
yeah,
growing up, I was like the small kid, and I had to wear a bicycle helmet everywhere to school, like for fucking like 2 years. So
yeah,
if you talk to any of my friends that are like grew up with me, I'm from a really small town in northern Canada. Everybody kind of remembers that stage of my life.
Reminds you of it.
Hockey helmet, or sorry, not a hockey helmet, a bicycle helmet on all the time. So needless to say, jokes were it wasn't very difficult to find jokes about me.
Yeah, I bet.
So,
right.
Yeah, growing up, I was smaller. I had that, and then I had some learning disabilities. Obviously, I couldn't really comprehend or read or write until I was like 10 or 11, and then it was just frustrating. It was difficult, but like I would always and I played sports and stuff like that, so I always kind of had a chip on my shoulder that I felt like I was at a disadvantage. So I would always try to work twice as hard. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of why tenacity always comes to mind, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And so, how do you get into MMA when you got a soft spot on your head, man?
Yeah, so that was the thing. Like I would play hockey and stuff, and grew up playing hockey. I played hockey. I never let it in. Like I was always told to be careful, don't get hit in it and stuff, and all that. But I also at the same time wasn't gonna let, I don't know, something that was out of my control stop me from doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah, okay.
So played played hockey until I was like 13 or 14, and then I switched to football because I just wanted to hit more people. I wanted more contact.
Yeah.
So played football. I've never ever had a problem with it. And then right around like 15, 16, I started like, there isn't much to do in my hometown. So you can either date the same girl that everybody dates, or you can get into drugs, or you just kind of go out and you party and you get into fights and stuff. So I was athletic, and then I would go out and I would get into scraps and stuff like that. And I quickly realized that it was something that I was good at. So I might as well. So I enjoyed it. So I started getting into jiu-jitsu and wrestling and stuff like that. And then my dad was in the Canadian Special Forces, and he was a boxer. So I grew up boxing with him. And then, it was just something I was interested in. And then as soon as I was 18, graduated high school. And as soon as I was able to legally sign a contract, I had my first MMA fight. But at the time, you just had to you had to see a doctor. So you had to get medically cleared by a doctor. And my family physician was like my best friend's dad. So I think he kind of like signed off on it type thing, like when he shouldn't have. Obviously, he knew my medical history.
Right.
And so I got that. Then you have to get your blood work done for like HIV, hepatitis A, B, and C, and stuff of that nature. And then you just had to do a physical. And then so I did all that. Obviously, it was all good. So did that. I was training and fighting for probably like 3 years or 4 years. And then they switched the pre-fight medicals to you had to get a CT scan. So obviously when they did that, I could no longer pass it, and I couldn't continue to fight. So that's where I kind of like was lost in a bit of a transition. And I was like, oh, I'm super competitive. I need something like, I need a physical goal to like achieve. I started looking into like Spartan races and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't overly like running. Like I want to be doing something like, I don't know, different. So a friend of mine was a bikini competitor, and she told me about men's physique and said to look into it. And then I kind of looked into it, and then did my first show. And then I think I did like 12 or 13 competitions. I did like the Arnold's in Columbus, Ohio, North Americans, Canadian Nationals. Yeah. So then while doing that, I suppose I was kind of started my business and whatnot for fitness, to help with fitness.
Okay. And so, how long ago was that, the transition from, MMA to?
I was probably 24. And then for like 2 years, I didn't like really compete or do anything. I was still able to compete in jiu-jitsu competitions and grappling competitions. Yeah. So I did a lot of those. I won like Ontario provincials and some Alberta provincials and stuff like that, competitions. But because you didn't need blood work or anything like that, it was just a grappling competition. Yeah. So then I did that for like 2 years, and then I got into the fitness industry in like 2015-ish, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when was the point where it really took off for you in the fitness arena, I should say?
I wouldn't say it took off at a certain point. It was always growing, but there was like an aha moment when I understood that you could capitalize or maximize on social media and your reach and your growth and stuff like that. So for the first like little while, I went through it's always funny. I always tell my story. And I was on Mike Ritland's podcast. He's a friend of mine. He's a dog handler. He trains dogs, and he's an ex-United States Navy SEAL. So I was sharing my story, and he's like, I see a common theme, and it's generally that I was chasing a woman or I went through a breakup. So I had a bad breakup, and I was like, I wanted to focus on my personal development and growth and stuff like that. I didn't want to go out and party and waste my time and whatnot. So I just started training. I was like working out twice a day, cleaned up my diet, and I was just trying to keep my mind focused on progressive things. I went to a ton of Tony Robbins seminars, business development seminars, personal development seminars and stuff. Yeah. So I did that for like a year, and then I was celibate for a year. I like swore off women. I wasn't going on dates or anything. And then in that process, my social, like I had so much time, and I was kind of understanding that there's a niche market, I suppose. I shouldn't say niche market for social media, but I was understanding that there was a market, and I could potentially, because at the time I was a welder. I was welding in the oil field. And I didn't want to work in the coldest place on the planet for 14-hour days anymore. Yeah, so that's weird. In that process, I was looking for every fucking possible angle to grow and progress and add more value to get the hell out of that position. And then I eventually did, and I chased another girl across the country and moved across the country. And then that's what took me to Ontario. So I was in Ontario for like 3 years. And then in that time period, I was doing shout outs and or like doing research on how to grow social media following and how to do e-commerce and how to do Shopify and fucking everything. So
yeah.
Yeah,
quite the story, man. And how old are you right now?
I'm 30 right now.
30. So yeah, you've done a lot, and kind of a short amount of time, right? Still young. Who have been some of the people that have really impacted you, right? Maybe some, championship level leaders, those other people in your life that have that same tenacity, or maybe the tenacity that you aspired for, and to get you to where you have been. I know you've mentioned a few people already, and maybe expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say different people. I remember when I first saw like Andy Frisella from First Form. I really resonated with him just because he speaks his mind. He says whatever he wants to say. That's kind of like my personality. So that, and obviously he's extremely smart and successful. So just like the likeness of our personalities kind of drew me to him. So I focused on him, what he was doing. Ed Milet, Tony Robbins. Read a ton of Dale Carnegie books. I've always been a huge Dale Carnegie fan. And then like a lot of athletes, like people ask me if I have fitness like motivations and stuff like that. I've never been inspired by like a physique or anything like that. So there's guys like Collin Wayne. You met Collin, right? You know Collin?
I'm not sure.
Collin was he was there the night that I met you. He's the owner of Redline Steel. He owns that steel company.
Okay, yeah.
So he's super successful. He always like kind of motivated me from a business standpoint because he was in the military, and then he went to he was in the fitness industry, then left fitness industry. Now he's running a very successful steel company. But Greg Plitt was somebody that I always liked, his tenacity and his work ethic. It's more so work ethic that inspires me. Like if somebody can work their ass off, that'll motivate me to stay productive.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you have you talked about it a little bit, right? The following that you've created, and maybe you saw that what's possible if you with that kind of an audience or a following. So I can imagine with that following, there's a fair amount of messages, people asking questions, trying to figure out maybe the magic pill to get where you are today, possibly, right? And almost without having to do the work, right? I mean, is there a fair amount of that you get?
Oh yeah, but like I used to I would explain the process to people, and then I'd be like, all right, like you have to do the fucking work. Like you don't get the results without doing the work. It doesn't work that way. So I used to be kind of a little bit more patient, I suppose, but now I'm usually like, listen, this is how it works. If you don't do the fucking work, you don't get the fucking results. So it's kind of how simple it is. But
it really is that simple, right?
That's how I've always viewed it. Like you're not gonna get anything that you don't work for. Like I personally don't have mommy and daddy buying me shit and doing things for me. I didn't grow up that way. So if you want something, you got to work for it. Like to me, it's not a grand concept to understand. So. But for some people, like it'll confuse me when they're like, oh, I want this, this, and that. And I'm like, okay, are you implementing this step to get to here, to get to there? Are you reverse engineering that process? And they're like, no. Well, how the fuck do you expect to get what you want?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's mind blowing actually sometimes when you really think about it. But I don't know, I think people see someone like yourself, and they see the end result. They don't see all the time and the years of the work, the not sexy times where of in the gym or on the oil fields and everything else that's gotten you to where you are today to do that. So
a lot of people and that's the thing with social media. Social media is a highlight reel of what people want to show you. You don't see you're not seeing Satima fucking up at 4 a.m. in the gym and up all night reading and researching and fucking understanding new methods for marketing. And you're not seeing that because you're saying it's not sexy. Nobody's posting that. So, but you have to be consciously aware that what you see on social media, allow it to influence you in a beneficial way, but also kind of keep it in the back of your mind that you're only seeing a highlight reel.
Yeah, absolutely. What's a point in your life where, when I think of a championship level leader, yeah, tenacity, work ethic, willing to do what almost everyone else isn't. But then there's also, I think, a big characteristic of being able to push through, like persevere, right? And also to have this vision that others can't see, or maybe they can see, but they're not willing to make the difficult choice, and the one in which it's almost like this fork in the road, right? Everybody else is kind of going left, and you decided to go right, and this major turning point in your life that had you decided to go where the masses were going, maybe you're not where you are today in life. Like, is there a moment that you can think of that was really kind of a defining moment to get you where you are today?
Oh, absolutely. Like 100%. I can think of two separate stories.
Okay.
One, I was young, and it was just I remember, like, and I was just talking about it. Like, I don't think I've ever shared it on social media or anything like that. I was just sharing this with my girlfriend, Rachel. And we were discussing moments that, like, taught you something extremely valuable in life. And I'll always remember, I used to do, like, I was super active. I was, like, played soccer, played hockey, played football, played everything. But I also, like, ran in cross-country running. So, like, I did long distance running. Wow. Yeah. And I think I was, like, 13 or 12 or something like that. And I had won provincials, which would be, like, the equivalent to states, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
The last couple of years in a row. And I was always competing against this kid named Kyle. It kind of always came down to us. And I remember, like, for the whole year, I was rollerblading, I was running, I was super active, and my cardio was, like, the best it's ever been. And we had to run through, like, this huge provincial park. It was, I don't know, like a few miles or whatever. But I ended up getting kind of, like, lost, and I couldn't see where to run. And I remember I was, like, I wasn't exhausted or anything. I was just like, fuck. And I, like, kind of stopped running, and I was just, like, looking around. And anyways, I ended up getting passed by the Kyle kid, and he fucking, like, blew past me. I was like, all right, whatever. I'm like, well, best of luck. Like, I don't know where the fuck we're going type thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, he just kept running straight, and he literally rounded a corner, and, like, the finish line was, like, 300 feet from me. No and way. I always remember being, like, shattered. I was like, oh, my God. Like, I fucking gave up, and, like, it was right there. And, like, for years, like, it was probably till I was, like, 23, I didn't realize that taught me an extremely valuable lesson, that just because you can't see the end doesn't mean you're not super close to success.
And, dude, so powerful.
Yeah, I remember, like, that just ruining me as a kid. And I was like, oh, my God, like, I can't believe I put all this effort in. And, like, I was right there. And, like, there's no reason why I shouldn't have won. I just fucking gave up because I was confused and I couldn't see the ending.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like a moment there. And the second story, I suppose, would be, when I left the oil field. So I was making really good money. I was making, like, just under $200,000 a year. But I had my own company, I had my own truck and stuff like that. But you work, like, 14 hours a day. You're in the middle, like, you're in the coldest, most desolate place on the planet.
Middle of nowhere.
Sucks. Yeah, you're in the middle of nowhere. You're just with, like, 400 other dudes that are just dirty oil field workers and shit.
Yeah, right.
So it wasn't something I saw lots of longevity. I'm like, all right, I don't want to be doing this when I'm 50 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I saw an opportunity with, like, kind of social media and getting into health and fitness and stuff like that, things I was passionate about. And I took it and I ran with it. And at the time, nobody in Canada, I should say, like, there wasn't really anybody popular doing it. So I didn't have anybody to be like, hey, this person's doing well. Like, they're doing this. And, like, so my friends, my family, fucking everybody was like, you're going to fail. Like, go back to the oil field. And, like, I just kept hearing, like, well, at least you can go back to, like, welding if you want to. And I was like, well, I don't fucking want to. So I had, like, and I remember, and I don't hold any, like, grudgment or anything like that for my parents for not really believing in me at the time. They just didn't understand that there was, like, potential in social media and stuff. So yeah, like, probably for, like, a year and a half now, or the first year and a half, I just got shit on all the time. Nobody fucking supported me. And I remember, like, I just stopped talking to a lot of my friends and my family, because every time I talked to them, they pretty much would just come back to them telling me, like, hey, when are you coming back to welding? When are you going to be going back to the oil field? And I was like, I'm done now. Like, that's not part of my dream. But and then obviously I started seeing success, and I grew my first company, and then my second, my third. And anyways, now, like, a lot of people are like, fucking my family, they're like, yeah, you're doing good, Collin, like, keep it up. So it's all good. It's just people fear, like, and you can't be mad at somebody for wanting the best for you based on their beliefs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't like a negative thing. It wasn't like they wanted to see me fail. It's just that was their mindset, and that's like
No. Yeah.
they didn't understand it. And it's
Yeah. I get
important
it.
to differentiate that. I think like a lot of people are like, oh, people don't believe in me, and they're not like getting behind me and supporting you. They might not just understand your vision. It's not that they have any like thing against you or they're hoping you fail. They just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I talk to my dad now to this day. Like I started my first company like 5 years ago. I stopped welding like 5 years ago. He doesn't know what the fuck I do. He doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't have Facebook. He doesn't have anything. So like, he just asked me how I'm doing and if I'm happy. And I'm like, yep, awesome, Dad. He's like, cool. That's all he cares about.
That's incredible. So I can relate to that, man, because, you know, I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, just south of you guys, and small town. Yeah. My stepdad still doesn't have a cell phone. Like they really don't understand what I do. And I don't really even try to explain it. Like they ask me questions, I'll tell them. But other than that, they're just who I was when I was there growing up. Like that's who they know me as, and that's fine with me. But, and like you said, to your point, there are a lot of people out there that it feels like they're kind of trying to hold you down. But I think what you said, it's great perspective of, it's not necessarily that they're trying to hold you down. It's almost like they're more trying to protect you, but they don't realize it's really harming you because they more than likely settled right in their life. You know, if they're like my small town in northern Wisconsin, 3,000 people, they can't imagine doing what you went and did, especially from having this success, what would be a very successful career in business, making 200K, you know, in the middle of nowhere. Like for a lot of people where we grew up, from what I can tell, like that's success, right? And you're going to give that up for what? And then, especially 5 years ago, social media wasn't even close to what it is today. And to go and do that. So I think it's a huge point. Like they just don't know any better, but it's not really helping you. Right. But I love that you're like, hey, I don't hold it against them.
And that's the thing. Like people need to be more consciously aware of other people's perceptions. Like just because you see something and you understand something a certain way, that doesn't necessarily mean your partner or your friends or your family or whatever it may be sees it the same way. So it's kind of like, I always view it as it's my job. If I want to be upset about something, it's my job to communicate with you exactly what I'm doing. And then if you have the exact same opinion, all right, well then fuck it. I don't care. Like you're your own opinion. But like, it's usually just like a misunderstanding or somebody doesn't comprehend like your situation. It's generally not that somebody just wants the worst for you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, again, I always, when I think championship leadership, I go to sports. I go to football typically. Think of the great coaches and how they'll go, and they're always, especially in the off season. I mean, they'll send their staffs to other teams, to other colleges, even pro teams are sending their staffs to college teams to learn, right? To continually stay, I guess you'd say, in front, right? Ahead of the curve of how everything evolves and changes so quickly. Who were some of those for you in this transition period and to get you where you were? Was there anyone in your life that you were leaning on as that mentor, that coach?
I kind of like up until the point where I started my first business, I didn't really have a coach or a mentor or anything like that. I did a lot of like reading, and I would listen to like different podcasts and such from successful people like Grant Cardone, Andy Frisella, Ed Milat, all those guys and stuff like that, the Ryan Stumans. But I didn't really have anybody that like directly kind of worked with me. The only thing I could relate it to, and I'm forever grateful for, is I was very lucky that, especially when you're in the oil field and stuff like that, and everybody's making really good money, everybody's very content to stay there. But I was very lucky that when I was so the way it kind of works is you have to do an apprenticeship for like 4 years. You have to get like 6,000 hours, and you have to go to school like 4 times, and then you become a journeyman, and then that's when you kind of hit the top of what you can make financially. So when you do that process, you get paired with another journeyman, and then you kind of mentor or you apprentice under him. Okay. So that's what I do, and generally you get mentored because you're stuck with that person for like 12 to 14 hours a day. Like you work like side by side. So I know everything about that. I know every relationship problem he's ever had. I know him better than his family knows him.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky in the sense that I got partnered up with a guy named Collin, who actually became one of my best friends. And then we did some business later on in life. But he was super big into like Tony Robbins, and he was every day he was talking about a different way to get out of the oil field. Like he didn't want to like, and he was a fucking stud welder, like an amazing welder. So I couldn't understand like why he was so amazing. He was really young. He was really successful. He was only a couple years older than me. And I couldn't understand like, why would you want to leave this? Like I had the mindset that like, yeah, 200 grand's cool. Like,
yeah, right.
I like working, and like, yeah, I do like working. I don't like fucking being miserable. And
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
he was a little bit ahead of me in that sense that he understood that he wanted more for himself. But in the oil field, he was like an anomaly. Everybody made fun of him because nobody really is interested in personal development and growth and looking at different entrepreneurial like avenues and stuff like that. And he was getting into penny stocks, and I remember at some points, and I had no idea what the hell he was talking about 90% of the time. But I just remember being like, I really like that he's like open-minded, and I was stuck with him. So I'm forever grateful that I got partnered up with him. However the universe aligned it, because the odds are like 1 in a million to be partnered with somebody that would aid you.
Yeah, what a blessing, man.
What's that?
Right? I mean, it's like I've been having this conversation with some of our clients too, you know, talking about the path that they were on has really prepared them for what they're doing now, right? And you would never be able to see it when you were in it, right? And like you said, you could say, I don't know, it's God, or you could say whatever, like you said, the universe or something out there would, you know, had a plan in place for you, and you had no clue where it was leading you. But yeah, to think, because I know the kind of guys that are working out on the oil fields aren't typically the ones that are listening to Tony Robbins all the time and all about personal growth. Like, if they're making that kind of money, they're loving it, and they're loving a lot of other things in their life that aren't probably serving them super well either.
Yeah.
And but yeah, just to be there and to have that in your life, to have that time, like you said, a lot of time to just talk and to learn and to grow together.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe you wouldn't have taken the step to go out on your own and taken that leap had you not had
100%.
that.
I don't think I would have. I know for a fact, had I not got aligned with him, I wouldn't have that in my mindset, because when I was with him, I made fun of him all the time. Like, he was like he was reading Tony Robbins, listening to audio tapes and stuff, and I was like, I didn't want to listen to him because I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Like, put music on or something. Like, and I was just like 21, and I was kind of like, I didn't give a shit. Like, I was making good money, and I made fun of him nonstop, like hours on end. I was just making fun of him, but he kept like, it was what he was interested in. He just kept listening, and because he was like kind of the boss, he was the journeyman. I was just kind of, I had to listen to it. So, and then like it grew on me, and then I was like, all right, fuck, like this is starting to like, this is interesting. Like, I could see how this was, and it really started kind of getting the wheels turning in the sense that I'm forever grateful for it.
Awesome.
And it's going back to what you're talking about with like your story is what allows you to be successful. Like, you don't really see, like, you look at a Ryan Stewman, like, he's overcome a lot of shit, and like because he's overcome that stuff, it's allowed him to be able to operate at the level that he does. And I always look at it in that sense that like public speaking. I was talking to Rachel. I went down there for a month, and I was helping her with public speaking and helping her get ready for her presentation and such. Just because I knew that like she was really afraid of it. She was like afraid of speaking in front of 600 people. But and I was like, well, it's no different than you getting on stage and like competing, like in a team competition. Like, this is your story. You can't tell it wrong. So, and I always relate that back to like when I was fighting in MMA, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, like, because I got to go speak at the University of Orlando in June. So I think there's like 700 people or something like that there. Yeah. And I was like, for a moment, I was like, oh, like, I'm like, that's going to be kind of like intimidating. But then I was like, well, I'm not getting punched in the face.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not like, it's not like I'm going into an MMA fight. I'm like, nobody's really going to be drunk yelling at me and telling me they want to see me die and stuff like that. So I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, like, I've done that. So like speaking isn't a big deal. Yeah. And like, for me to work 12 hours on my computer, like, I always relate it back to other things. I'm not out in the coldest place on the fucking planet, miserable, welding, like under dripping hot, like steel. So like, I can work 12 hours on my computer. It's not a big deal to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. You know, you got that, you know, perspective creates possibilities for sure. So I love that.
Yeah. And like, as long, like, I feel like, and I always say this, like, if I have an option to do the right thing or the thing that leads me to the best story, I'm always going to choose the thing with the best story, because that's where, like, you get the most experience, you get the most growth. Whether you fuck up, who knows, like, what happens might get to shit, but you're going to learn something from it every time. Like, if you do what's right and the good things and what society wants you to do, I feel like you don't grow as much.
Yeah. I love it, man. That's awesome. You have an amazing story. We all do, though, right? I mean, you know, a lot of us discredit our stories, I think, and don't, discount it. But yeah, we all have a story to tell, and that's what really people resonate with. So
yeah, and like, it goes back to like what Sean Whalen was talking about, like, just being open, and like your story is your superpower. And I've always agreed with that. Like, it was funny because it wasn't until I did Mike Ritland's podcast and he was like asking me a bunch of probing questions. And for me, like, I was just breezing over them. I'm like, oh yeah, I got in like this accident, like ripped my skull off, and like I did this, and like I was scared. And he's like, oh man, like that's like super, like there's a lot of power in that. And I was like, oh. Then I started realizing that like people can relate to that. Like, I should share my story more. And I started understanding the power behind not just my story, everybody's story. Like, people overlook their own story and how powerful it is, because it is relatable to a lot of people. Everybody goes through the same shit for the most part. So if you don't share your story with people, if you have a large social media following, you're doing them a disservice. You're doing a disservice to the world by not motivating and adding more value and understanding to other individuals. So yeah, like, I always tell people, like, I know you don't think your story, because I've been there myself. I didn't think my story was special, and I still don't think it's that special. It's my story. But for some reason, it resonates with people. People will tell me different things. And I've seen that with, like, going to fitness expos and stuff. I always remember I went to a fitness expo, and because I fought in MMA and football and shit like that, I'm quite good at skipping, or like jumping rope. So I posted a video one time of me jumping rope. I don't know, I was doing some like crossovers, and it was just like a 45-second video, and it had like it was just a circuit. It's like do like 100 over-unders or whatever, and some shit like that. So I posted it, not thinking anything of it. Like, it did okay on engagement. Like, I don't know, people were like, hey, that's cool. Like, yeah, I'm gonna try that. All right, awesome. And then like 2 years later, I was in Germany. I was in Cologne, Germany at FIBO, and my following wasn't super big, obviously, because they all speak German, and like, so I wasn't very popular at this expo. I'm used to going to like the States and stuff like that, and I meet people more and stuff. So I was kind of just like sitting in the corner, and all like the European athletes were getting like swarmed and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, I'm in a different country. They probably don't understand or even know who the hell I am. And then this dude like just like sees me, and he like points at me, and he like comes like just hauling ass over. And I was like, hey man, like, what's up? And he's like, you're Collin, right? I was like, yeah. And then he's like, I have something, like, I have to show you something. I was like, okay, cool. So he like shows me a video of him skipping, and I was like, okay. I'm like, not really that good, but like, but anyways, that wasn't the point of the story. You showed me he's skipping, and I was like, cool, man. Like, why are you showing me this type thing? And then he's like, well, I have to tell you something. So right before I posted that video, like, it was probably like a year and a half before, he got T-boned by a drunk driver. He got hit like in his vehicle, and he like fucked up his femur, and he like ruined his like liver and his pancreas and stuff. He got this really bad accident, and like, I guess he wasn't supposed to walk for a while.
Oh, wow.
Or it was going to be like 2 years for him to walk again. And then for whatever reason, he saw my post of me skipping, and that post was what struck a chord with him. And he's like, I want to be able to do that. And like, yeah, it was crazy. He was like telling me, and he's like, I watched your video like 10,000 times. Like, I just like watched it over and over again. I just want to be able to skip and do these like things. And I was like, holy fuck. And I was like, that's crazy. And he's like, yeah, like when I was going through rehab, and like I had months of rehab, and like I just wanted to be able to skip. Like, that was all I wanted to do. And I was like, that's so crazy to like me, that like you don't realize the power of and the influence that you have on social media on certain people. Like, that's just one story that stuck out with me. And like, I always remember now that like each post you potentially could be inspiring or promoting the right or the wrong thing. So it's good to kind of have that awareness, I suppose.
Yeah, like you say, there's a lot of power, right, one way or the other. But wow, what a lesson to be able to learn that, man. Yeah, this just a few years.
It was crazy.
Like, skipping, and it's like it changed someone's world.
And it was so funny because he showed me the video.
Yeah.
And when he first showed me the video, I was like, oh, okay, like, cool, like, right on. And then, like,
Yeah.
after he told me the story, this is like 2 minutes later. I was
Yeah.
like, holy fuck. And I was watching the video, and I'm like, that's amazing. And, like,
Yeah,
it was
right.
so
Wow.
crazy, just, like, the perception change, like, because I was like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. And then, like, after I knew the story and, like, the history of it, and that comes back to your story. Everybody needs to share their story.
Yeah.
Like, because had he not told me that, I would have been like, cool, you're an average skipper. Good for you.
Yeah, no context. You're like, all right, yeah, cool.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why you're
cool.
showing me this. Yeah,
I think it's fascinating to have different perceptions and understand people's like viewpoints and why they're doing certain things. And
yeah,
it allows you to be more understanding and compassionate to people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, what's we talked vision earlier. What's the next 5 years look like for you?
Next 5 years, I'm not sure. Like, I got like goals of things I kind of want to, like, benchmarks I want to hit. But I'm like a super like business goals and stuff, and I'm always wanting to grow and develop, like, personally, like, whether it's mentally, spiritually, financially, physically, whatever it may be. I always want to be 1% better each day. So I don't really have like huge goals like by this day I need this, by this day I need this, but I got benchmarks. Like, I want to be in the States and stuff. I'm planning on moving to the States.
Okay.
I just think that there's more potential and opportunities for me in a business sense and stuff like that. So I'm in the process of doing that.
Yeah.
But I just fucking do my thing, and I just work on getting better every day and having fun and growing with my family and my friends. And that's how life, as long as you're doing the right things and you're not a piece of shit, life's going to be good to you. That's kind of my sense.
That's a good motto to live by for sure, man. Well, let's wrap this up. And what are one or two things maybe you could leave with the listeners here, business owners or just people in life just trying to get, like you said, maybe just a little bit better, 1% better every day. Like, what are one or two things that you could leave with them before we
the biggest thing I always say is be your own motivation. It's good to be motivated by other people, but like the biggest motivating factor should be, and you should understand and comprehend this, if you don't do the fucking work, you're not going to get the results. So that's like, there's days where I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing this. But then I'm like, well, if I don't do this, I'm not going to get this, and this isn't going to happen, and this isn't going to happen. So that's my motivation. And it's probably the question I'm asked the most. Everybody's like, how do you stay motivated? Like, do you listen to podcasts and stuff? Yeah, I'll see clips that kind of get me like a little bit fired up for the day. But like, at the end of the day, it comes down to you. You need to be your own motivation. Like, unless you got somebody fucking doing all the work for you, which 98% of the people don't, you're going to have to do the work. So I always say deeds, not words, in the sense that don't talk about it, be about it. Like, you got to do the work. Like, and that goes to your character, your morals. Like, so just be accountable and set yourself at a higher standard.
Yeah, deeds, not words. That's awesome, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. So how can, we'll have all this in the show notes as well, obviously, but how can people follow you, find you?
Yeah, I'll be, you can just follow me on like Collin Joseph _fit, COLLIN JOSEPH, and then _fit. And then just hit me up on Instagram. If anybody's got any questions, shoot me a DM. I answer everything. Yeah. Well, everything of importance.
Yeah. I got it, man. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you taking time out to be here. Thank you, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I truly appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Have a good one.
Peace.